A bunch of Philadelphia Eagles news that just came in as the Eagles prepare to play the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday in Minneapolis for this Week 7 matchup. This is as close to being a must-win game for the Eagles here as it gets. I did go live a little bit earlier here on Eagles Now. I appreciate all of the real ones who tuned in to hang out with myself and producer Chip. In that live show, I did an Eagles and Vikings preview. That is up on the channel. So if you want the best preview for that game with in-depth analysis, an injury report, key matchups to watch, keys to the game, check that video out. But in that preview, we talked about some of the things that we are expecting to get a little bit later today because the injury report's coming out for the Vikings and the Eagles, and we're going to dive into that and a whole lot more here on the program. This is Philadelphia Eagles Now. My name is Chase Sr. Again, thanks so much for hanging out here with me. And if you want elite Eagles coverage every single day year-round, be a real one. Lock us in and hit that subscribe button right now. So in that preview earlier, I talked about the quarterback situation for the Minnesota Vikings, how it was up in the air. And Kevin O'Connell is one of the top offensive minds. He's the head coach and the play caller for the Vikings, and he's done a great job during his Vikings stint as a Sean McVay disciple of elevating quarterbacks, maximizing them. He's had a lot of guys play really, really well. Kirk Cousins was probably playing the best ball of his career before he popped this Achilles. Carson Wentz is playing well this year. We've seen Joshua Dobbs have success. Nick Mullins has gone on some runs. Jaron Hall did some nice things. And so O'Connell, a former quarterback, a good quarterback whisperer. Sam Darnold last year had a career season that allowed him to get a bag from the Seattle Seahawks, and he's having a terrific season with Seattle. And so going into this game, he was keeping it mum as far as who the quarterback was going to be, but by NFL rules, the Vikings had to release their injury report, and Carson Wentz, the former Eagle, left shoulder injury. It's been pretty painful for him, even coming off of the bye week in Week 6. He was a full participant today. That news just coming across. And then the second-year player, J.J. McCarthy, who had a redshirt year last year because he got a knee surgery, he's dealing with an ankle sprain. He's been out since Week 2. He was a limited participant. So as of right now, it looks like Carson Wentz is going to play in this game on Sunday against his former team. This is, of course, a very fun storyline. Drafted by the Eagles, number 2, behind Jared Goff in 2016 out of North Dakota State. Year 2, he had a superb season under Doug Peterson. The overall numbers were fantastic. The third down numbers were great. The efficiency numbers, the eye test, the ability to make plays downfield, the ability to make plays with his legs, to improvise and create the tight window throws, throwing with touch. He looked like he was on his way to becoming one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL for a long time. And then as we know, LA Coliseum against the Rams in a huge NFC game, he tears up his knee. If he didn't tear up his knee in that game and he stayed healthy the rest of the way, Eagles would have had the number 1 seed, home field advantage. I think Carson Wentz would have won MVP, and I didn't see a team stopping the Eagles and Carson Wentz that year. Now, as we know, he got hurt, lost for the year, completely tore up his knee. Nick Foles replaces him. Eagles go on to win the Super Bowl. The divisional round game was dicey against the Atlanta Falcons. Nick Foles didn't play well in that game, but then he caught fire in the NFC Championship game against Minnesota. The skull chants turned into Foles chants. And then in the Super Bowl, he tore up that Bill Belichick defense, won Super Bowl MVP, and put up statistically one of the best quarterback performances of all time, and it was one of the best stories of all time. I mean, straight out of a movie. The backup winning a Super Bowl, they knock off Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, and Carson Wentz didn't really handle that well. You know, it's been documented that when the Eagles were celebrating that Super Bowl championship, Wentz was very upset in the locker room. Obviously, he congratulated his teammates, but this is something that lingered for the rest of his Eagles career. I mean, shoot, Nick Foles and Doug Peterson have a statue erected outside of the link. Carson Wentz does not. And so there was a little bit of a jealousy factor. He rubbed some people the wrong way inside that locker room. Darren Sproles has talked about this publicly. And in 2018, he tried to rush back off that knee injury and wasn't the same guy. And then he hurt his back. Nick Foles comes back in, replaces him, wins a playoff game. If it wasn't for the Alshon Jeffrey drop in the divisional round, I was in New Orleans all that week, Eagles would have made it to the NFC Championship game. They were on that magic ride because they got hot late in the year. They would have had an opportunity to maybe go back to the Super Bowl. And then Carson Wentz in 2019 has an excellent December. Eagles host the Seahawks. He gets concussed on that dirty play by Jadeveon Clowney. Then in 2020, the Eagles were awful. Doug Peterson's team won 4 games that year. They were 4-11-1. Wentz got benched. Jalen Hurts started toward the end of the year. In 2021, Nick Sirianni's first year, Jalen Hurts becomes the starter, and that offseason going into 2021, after Dougie P got fired a few years after winning that Super Bowl, Wentz got shipped to Washington. So his career was a crazy roller coaster, what could have been. But I will say this, the Eagles do not win that Super Bowl in 2017 without Carson Wentz. He won, 11 games that year, and was the reason why the Eagles got the number 1 seed and home field advantage. Chris Long talked about how important home field advantage was for the Eagles that year. Now, obviously, Nick Foles won those 3 playoff games, the divisional round, NFC Championship game, and the Super Bowl, and won Super Bowl MVP. But Carson Wentz set that team up to have success. And then his career, short-lived with Philadelphia. So really it goes down as the what could have been career for Carson Wentz. But at the same time, Eagles don't win the Super Bowl without him. And so now he has an opportunity to go up against Jalen Hurts, the quarterback who replaced him, and an opportunity to go up against Howie Roseman's Eagles after they got rid of him. So a fun storyline for Sunday's game. As far as the Eagles injury report goes, some breaking news on this front. Non-participant today, Greg Calcaterra, oblique. Limited participants, Landon Dickerson, ankle. Quinyon Mitchell, hamstring. If Landon Dickerson rests again, that's fine. Hasn't been right all year. The interior of this Eagles offensive line has really killed them. But if Quinyon Mitchell can go in this game, that is massive, huge for this Eagles defense. Given how elite of a player he is, given the wide receiver talent for Minnesota, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and given the concerns at corner, if Quinyon cannot go. Now, limited participants, so obviously we'll monitor this all throughout the week. But if it's Keely Ringo and Adoree Jackson going up against Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, and the Eagles can't generate a pass rush, could be a long day for this Eagles defense. Or Vic Fangio is going to have to get creative with applying pressure and disguising coverages, getting creative with coverages to limit, not shut down because that's hard, but at least limit Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. And then full participants, linebacker Zach Bonfinger, defensive tackle Jaylen Carter, heel, and defensive tackle Jordan Davis, shoulder. Jaylen Carter said at his locker he is going to play. Didn't play against the Giants. Eagles got bullied. They missed him being the bully. Giants had a lot of success running the ball right through the heart of that Eagles defensive line. Not sure they have as much success if Jaylen Carter is playing. Now, do the Giants still win? Probably, because the Eagles were a shit show all across the board. But obviously they attacked the Eagles knowing Jaylen Carter wasn't there. And so the fact that Jaylen Carter is going to play in this game, a big boost for this Eagles defense because his impact is felt all the time when he's on the field. He's that good of a player. And I say that despite him really struggling this season. His Pro Football Focus numbers, not great. And as we know, to start camp, dealing with the shoulder, he's been banged up, out of shape. He played so many snaps last year, barely took snaps off. I mean, there were games where he did not take a play off. And so I credit him and give him credit for the durability. This year, though, hasn't been the same guy. Overall PFF grade, 59.8, 94th among 192 interior defensive linemen. Pass rush grade, 72.1, It's good, but that's 35th. Our run defense grade, 51.8. He doesn't have a sack, has 9 hurries, that ranks 21st, has 6 hits, that ranks 4th, has 15 pressures, that ranks 18th. No batted passes. That's an area where he was number 1 last year. He's played 224 total snaps. That ranks 35th last year, number 1 among defensive tackles in snaps played. Obviously, I think the injuries have held him back, and he's been out of shape. He's been trying to get into shape. He looks a little bit pudgy, but Jaylen Carter has an opportunity to be extension eligible after this year. And he's had personal fouls. He obviously spit on Dak Prescott. The Eagles need to know that a guy coming out of Georgia, who a lot of people deem to have character concerns, that their investment is safe. And right now, they don't know if their investment is safe, if they want to make him the highest paid defensive tackle in the sport. And how about what Brian Baldinger said about Jaylen Carter today on 94 WIP? He held nothing back. Quote, he's been awful. He hasn't made one play. He hasn't shown any violence out there. He doesn't look like he's in great shape. He was an ascending player. We thought he'd be a dominant player, but he doesn't look anything like that right now. I don't know what's going on there, but he has not been the same player. Wow. And Baldy is a former Eagle who obviously loves his Eagles and makes a lot of media appearances in Philadelphia. He's been a very positive voice for the Birds. Blunt and honest there about Jaylen Carter. Other news here, too, that was breaking today. Eagles making a couple of roster moves. And let me just pull that up here. The Eagles signed defensive end Titus Leo, who they worked out the other day, and then tight end Jaheim Bell to the practice squad. Jaheim Bell, pretty interesting athlete at the tight end spot. But 2 new additions to the Eagles practice squad. We were thinking C.J. Gardner-Johnson released from the Ravens practice squad. Then the Eagles made some moves on the practice squad. Could they bring in C.J. G.J.? As of right now, no. But they do have an open roster spot because Zadarius Smith did retire. Elsewhere, just some notables for the Birds here. Jordan Mailata, there's been a lot of talk about accountability during this mini bye coming off that Thursday disaster. And Jordan Mailata, team captain, team leader, said, I think our focus hasn't been there as an offense, quite frankly, to be really blunt. Do your job. Do your bleeping job. That's what he said. And that's sometimes what needs to happen. When you watch the tape and you see guys not executing or taking plays off or missing their assignments, you got to do your job. And high-level teams, high-level businesses, they're able to hold people accountable. The Eagles are doing that right now. Jalen Hurts said after the offensive meeting with Kevin Patullo, the Eagles are all in it together. He says the meeting was about the direction of the offense, finding their identity. He says they spoke about finding alignment, finding structure to galvanize everybody to get to where they want to be. Hurts said, there is urgency. I have urgency. It starts with me. It starts with the direction that we get from Kevin Patullo. We have to help each other. We have to play together as a group. I like that. Nakobe Dean said, we got to get our swagger back. That's what Vic Fangio's message was to the Eagles defense as well. The Eagles also put the pads on today. Pretty interesting. When they struggled to start the year last year around this point, they did the same thing. And then A.J. Brown said, the vibes are fine. Some reporters in the locker room also were saying the vibes were fine. And this comes off of Jeremy Fowler's report. I talked about this in the live show today. Video is going to come out later this week. That one player said, it feels like 2023 all over again. Now, why was Jeremy Fowler holding on to that quote nearly a week after he was told that in that Giants locker room? Not sure. Interesting. But look, you win on Sunday, everything could get turned around. You play poorly on Sunday, sky will be falling once again. So that's the latest news around the Birds. Wanted to pass that along to everybody. Thanks for tuning into the show. Thanks to everybody who tuned into the live show a little bit earlier. We'll bring you more content tomorrow. We'll bring you content every day because that's what we do. Don't forget to subscribe. Lock us in. See ya.